Blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. We'll continue talking about, the alternatives to Donald Trump. Joining us now, our great friend Phil Kerpen from American Commitment to talk energy cost, energy prices. Phil, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Good to have you back, sir. We take a look at all these alternatives now to Donald Trump. Recently, we've had these debates going on and on and on. Your thoughts on any of the major Democratic candidates, their energy policies versus the president's?
Well, they're all sort of pushing variations of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal. They're all talking about carbon taxes, which is to say energy taxes. They're all talking about reimposing all of the Obama regulations that Trump got rid of. And so I think we've got about as clear a contrast on energy as you could have on any issue. On the one hand, under President Trump, we've got increasing American production dramatically, pulling back regulations, not imposing taxes, and this vision of American energy dominance, not just independence, but dominance, being a major exporter. And we are a major exporter now of oil and gas, which is remarkable. It would have been hard to believe just a few years ago on the one hand, and then the Democrats on the other hand are sort of, Obama plus in terms of being anti-American energy, wanting to heavily tax, heavily regulate, and subsidize uneconomical energy sources to the tune of billions or even trillions of dollars. And so it's a pretty profound contrast, I think. And, if any of these Democrats win the general election, I don't know if they could actually get their carbon taxes through Congress, although maybe if the Democrats take the Senate and hold the House, they might. Although, it's going to be hard to pass something like that through Congress in any configuration. But we know there's so much they can do to stall and stop American energy production just using the executive branch and using the EPA and the Interior Department and sort of all of those tools that Obama used in some respects. Now, Obama cracked down dramatically on energy production on federal lands, but there was a boom on private lands because a lot of the things that he wanted to do that would have limited that never quite made it to the final rule status. For instance, like the Waters of the United States rule that was blocked in court. And so as bad as things were for American energy under Obama, you could see them be even worse under the next Democratic president because some of the things that were just proposals or concepts under Obama, you might see make it all the way into being implemented.
How big of an impact would that have on the economy?
Substantial. Look, energy is an input in everything that happens in the economy. And so if you drive energy prices up, you make it much harder to do all of the productive things that drive the economy forward. More difficult to invest, more difficult to work, more difficult to save. And so I think, that could precipitate a significant economic slowdown. I can say, but even if let's say it's no worse than Obama, let's say Democrats are sort of a return to Obama policies and no worse. Well, it's the difference between 3% economic growth and 2% economic growth, which might not sound like much, but over time, that is a massive, massive difference between, a strong economy that's producing lots of jobs with rising wages and sort of the economic pain that we were feeling in the Obama years. And so it's part of the overall picture, but it's a big part of it because energy is an input in basically everything that happens in the economy.
Phil Kerpen joining us from American Commitment, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. And yet you have some of the Democrats recently saying, and let's face it, Phil, they're not going anywhere in this race. I like the ideas of the new Green Deal, but we just can't pay for it. We don't know the impacts. So maybe there are some rational people, but this whole idea of we're going to wave a magic wand, and I know we're in the election silly season, but it's odd that, we're going to wave a magic wand and we're going to get rid of air travel because air travel's bad.
Well, look, Joe Biden said on the debate stage that he wants to convert us to the entire U.S. vehicle fleet to electric vehicles. That's like an insane thing to say. We've subsidized that industry to the tune of billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars over the past decade. And, there are 270 million cars and trucks on the road in America. 1 million of them are electric vehicles. So what would it take to flip the entire vehicle fleet over that? It's inconceivable. It's insane. It's deranged. And that's the supposed moderate was saying that on the debate stage last night. So I'm not sure that there is that much variety in the positions. I mean, maybe there's like a John Delaney or someone like that who's talking sense, but I mean, he has no chance in the Democratic primary because he sounds sensible. That doesn't appeal to their primary voters, Kevin.
Indeed. Let's talk a little bit about American Energy. How are we doing in Texas? Last time we talked, you'll tell us about specifically where in Texas it's going very well. Also, we've got the Dakotas heating up. How are we doing as far as internally with fracking?
Well, we're still booming. We're really booming, and it's been very interesting the past several months. There's been a concerted effort by the Gulf states and by Russia to try to get the oil price up, and they want it in the 80s. It's been very stubbornly staying in the 50s, and basically every time they cut production to try to increase the price, we increase production in the U.S. And so we've been gaining market share. We've actually had some weeks we were the number one exporter in the entire world, which is usually Saudi Arabia, of course. But we've been gaining market share, and we've been able to keep prices relatively stable, which has been a big positive for the economy. And so, we've largely taken the geostrategic oil weapon away from OPEC and from Russia, which is a remarkable change in the past few years. Now, we have seen some increase in prices, particularly because of the uncertainty with Iran and with the ships that have been downed in the Straits of Hormuz. And so, I think people have noticed that prices at the pump have come up a little bit from where they were before all that happened. But to me, the remarkable story is that they haven't gone up even more. It's been sort of a muted price shock because we've had so much U.S. production. So that's the good news story.
What about coal?
Well, coal is continuing to decline in the U.S. We're at the lowest coal use in our energy mix, I think, on record in the official data. Although it always dips in April, which is the most recent data that comes out, because a lot of the coal maintenance, a lot of the plants come down for maintenance in April every year. So the numbers are a little bit exaggerated in that regard. But you may have seen some of the headlines. Bloomberg was trying to tout as a big deal that wind plus solar plus hydroelectric was more than coal in April for the first time ever in U.S. history, which is kind of interesting, except that, of course, the liberals hate hydroelectric. So I don't know why they're now claiming that and touting that as some kind of victory. They add that in. Of course, we haven't been able to build a dam in this country in however many decades. So there's a little bit of sleight of hand behind that. But look, coal is being damaged. Coal was severely hurt as a portion of our energy mix by the regulations from the Obama administration, many of which have now been reversed or revised significantly. And we have the new placement rule for the Obama greenhouse gas rule for coal plants, which was basically a death sentence for coal plants. The Trump rule is much more reasonable. But the problem for coal is that once you've done a conversion, once you've converted a plant, you've spent the money, you're never going to convert it back because natural gas is so cheap. And so even as those regulations have been reversed, none of the conversions have been reversed and aren't expected to be. And so coal is continuing to decline as a portion of our fuel mix because, we have so much abundant, cheap natural gas. It just makes more economic sense for any new generation to be gas-fired. And, a lot of the conversions have already happened or are far enough down the line they're not going to be changed. So the future of coal really is the export markets. And coal is booming in China. It's booming in India. They're building a vast number of plants. The future for the U.S. coal industry really, in my opinion, is the export market. So the big question is, are we going to be able to get the coal trains? Are we going to be able to get the export terminals? We need export terminals on the West Coast. And, of course, the states on the West Coast are very hostile to coal and don't want export terminals. And so, to me, the big question for the U.S. coal industry is no longer, can we boost domestic demand significantly? I think that's unlikely to occur based on the economics of where it is, even if the policies improve, and they are improving. It's really more about reaching those export markets where there's tremendous demand. That's a question of whether you can get it's a question of whether you can get the export terminals built, basically. And obviously that's been a big challenge and a big fight for a number of years.
Phil Kerpen, American Commitment. We always appreciate you, brother.
All right, Kevin. Have a good one.
You too. All right, let's go to Pro-Life. Pro-Life, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning.
Yeah, I watched the whole debate last night, and I didn't catch, that you played back there with the woman that was saying that our chemical policy, our environmental policy, who was that said that? Did you Can you remember?
There are many, I believe. Oh, that was Marianne Williamson, or let me get her name. She was the author. Marianne Williamson, most searched on Google for night 2 of the Democratic debate. And by the way, for people that aren't familiar with her, let's take a listen to what she actually had to say.
It's really nice that we've got all these plans, but if you think we're going to beat Donald Trump by just having all these plans, you got another thing coming. Because he didn't win by saying he had a plan. He won by simply saying, make America great again. We've got to get deeper than just these superficial fixes, as important as they are. Even if we're just talking about the superficial fixes, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have a health care system in the United States. We have a sickness care system in the United States. We just wait till somebody gets sick, and then we talk about who's going to pay for the treatment and how they're going to be treated. What we need to talk about is why so many Americans have unnecessary chronic illnesses, so many more compared to other countries. And that gets back into not just the big pharma, not just health insurance companies. It has to do with chemical policies. It has to do with environmental policies. It has to do with food policies. It has to do with drug policies.
Thank you,
It
Senator.
has to do with environmental
Senator
policies.
Benedict.
There you have Lester Holt with the wacko alert saying, get her off the stage. She's a loon. Go ahead, pro-life.
No, wait a minute.
Loony, 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 loony. Lefty, lefty, lefty. Loony, loony, loony. Lefty, lefty, lefty.
All right, hey. No, that's probably my turn, right? Okay,
I don't know about that. You were pretty adamant with me recently when I said, look, I get great deals on men's diapers, and you didn't break from your ranting about how everything is horrible. So,
well,
shame, know your name.
All right, well, let's see. Let's go to this.
See, this is the deal with pro-life. He doesn't really even want to have a conversation. He's a nice, beautiful, loving young man. But when he gets to his talking points, he's like, I'm not talking about what Kevin Miller wants to talk about with his diapers. I'm talking about what I want to talk about, which is why you called in. So please go ahead, sir.
All right. Now, the Williamson woman is right. That's the only thing I heard in the whole debate, and I watched the whole thing last night, having to do, they're just communist, one world kind of socialist, the government does everything for you kind of people. But this, what she was talking about there, our food policy, our chemical policy, our environmental policies are poisoning us. We're not promoting organics. We're not promoting healthy food. We have a lot of chemical pollution through everything. Our vaccination policy is wrong. Government food education, school lunch, all of that is polluted. And our nuclear energy policy is messed up. Now, she's right about that. But that's the only thing that I heard in the whole thing that made any sense to me.
Well, then you're out of touch.
No, I'm not out of touch. We're poisoning ourselves. There's no doubt about it. And Republicans need to pick up with that.
Our life expectancy is longer than it's ever been.
Yeah, and health, the average health, people are suffering in a lot of different ways. We have high cancer rates. We have autism rates that are out of the world, We have all kinds of things that are messed up. So
things have always been messed up. That's why there's talk radio.
You're right. That's why we get to tell you the truth. All right, Kevin. I guess I'm going to hang up here.
What do you mean you're running now?
Yeah, well, I'll stay then.
Thank you, pro-life.
Well, anyway, if we don't change from having the pharmaceutical companies, the food companies, everything pollute our environment, we're going to continue to suffer, and we will have we will have tremendous costs in medical, and of course we're going to have socialized medicine to some amount or not to some extent, because the Republicans are socialized medicine. They just want to have less socialized medicine than the Democrats, so that we're going to have some kind of communism. That's just the way we're going to do it. But we don't have to have that if we had real sensible environmental policies. But we don't. We're going to let the big industries, the chemical and the pharmaceutical companies pollute us so that we have to go to the doctors. Then they give us some medicines that take us further down in our health. That's just what's happening. So what do you think about?
Pro-life, thank you for the call. That's what I think about that. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. More coming up next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
Keep your pistols, keep your rifles, keep your shotguns, but we can take the most dangerous weapons from the most dangerous people. We have the NRA on the ropes because of the moms, because of the Brady Group, because of Giffords, because of March for Our Lives. But I'm the only candidate on this stage calling for a ban and buyback of every single assault weapon in America.
Right. We will take your weapons by hook or by crook. That is California Congressman Eric Swalwell. And I just can't get enough of these guys. We continue to rap and yap about the loony lefties at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Perhaps another big hit of the night, Mayor Pete, the first openly gay man, him and his husband, Chase Chasten, whatever. So proud. Mayor Pete, maybe we should have had Mayor Pete here for Pride Week. Well, anyway. So Mayor Pete is saying, how dare you Republicans talk about God? How dare you Republicans talk about faith when you want to keep the illegals and the illegals' kids and all these poor victims from coming into the land of milk and honey. By the way, and I love Kamala Harris when she's saying, well, these mothers give their children to the coyotes because it's so bad. Do you really buy that one? But here's Mayor Pete on religion and how dare you people of faith. Man, if Mayor Pete gets in, it will not be good for anybody that believes in God, in my opinion.
The Republican Party likes to cloak itself in the language of religion. Now, our party doesn't talk about that as much, largely for a very good reason, which was we are committed to the separation of church and state, and we stand for people of any religion and people of no religion. But we should call out hypocrisy when we see it. And for a party that associates itself with Christianity, to say that it is okay to suggest that God would smile on the division of families at the hands of federal agents, that God would condone putting children in cages, has lost all claim to ever use religious language again.
Oh, Mayor Pete. Oh, Mayor Pete. Here we have the theology expert from Mayor Pete. Isn't that wonderful? Because you want to stop people from coming into the country illegally. You're now a bad person if you believe in God. Well, the way that religion is under attack today, and, you know, again, America continues to struggle with this issue involving homosexuality, gay marriage, and the like. You have Mayor Pete searching openly to reform how people view religion. Honestly, that's what's going on here, how people view religion. And if you don't believe in Mayor Pete's orthodoxy, well, then I question your faith. Never thought we'd see that one coming. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning. Good morning, Robin. Poor Joe Biden. Poor Joe, poor Joe. Here's the beginning of the end of Joe Biden.
To hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. And, you know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me. So I will tell you that on this subject, it cannot be an intellectual debate among Democrats. We have to take it seriously. We have to act swiftly.
Right. Joe Biden wasn't talking about busing. Like Joe Biden or not, Joe Biden was pretty good on civil rights. Nope, that's not good enough for Senator Harris. It gets more and more confusing when we start judging people by the standards of today with what they did in the past. You have to work with people you don't like. You have to work with people you don't agree with, right? That was Joe Biden's point, and yet because he used some segregationists, Democrat segregationists, I believe, well, now they're lumping him in. That's painful. Isn't life painful? Aren't the best lessons that we learn in life involving pain and sacrifice? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Maggie. Blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller, in the morning to talk about my favorite car guys, Rob and Aaron. Aaron and Rob, Team Mazda Subaru in Nampa, in Caldwell, on the boulevard, right down the road. You can't miss them. The big sign, this is Team Country. Well, what does that mean? Well, Team Mazda Subaru helped us support the Treasure Valley God and Country Festival. Team Mazda Subaru is there with us, promoting our school, securing our future. Team Mazda Subaru was there and continues to be there to help us with Miller's Mission, which, thanks to them and thanks to you, we had a record amount of donations for this spring, almost $17,000. $17,000. Amazing. Big ups to Rob and Aaron, the staff there, the service department. But for you, if you're looking for a partner, a community partner, whether you're new to Idaho or have been here for years, go check out my friends, Aaron and Rob, Team Mazda Subaru. Please tell them Kevin Miller from KIDO Talk Radio sent you.
For both of this week's debates, the Idaho Democratic Party held a watch party at the Powder House Brewing in Garden City. We were there tonight, and we asked if having so many candidates vying for the nomination hurts the Democrats' chances against President Trump.
I don't think that's the case that we see with so many candidates. I think that it's actually a healthy thing to have a lot of these conversations, and we're having them early.
Democratic candidates will gather again for a second round of debates at the end of July. We could see a different field then if any of the candidates who weren't in this week's debates meet polling or fundraising criteria.
There we have it from our friends at Channel 7. Glad to see that the Idaho Democratic Party is following the lead that we started, back in 2015, that you started back in 2015, which is these debate watch parties. Very nice that they're actually getting involved in that. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, just playing the hits here, talking about the debates, the Democrats. I mean, does anybody remember Beto anymore? How about Elizabeth Warren? Everybody's talking about the big showdown between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. People are praising her. She's going to be the next president. She's going to be the next Obama. Yet, if you hear the argument, it has nothing to do with things that impact us today. Have you ever noticed that when people talk about reparations, people talk about how bad America was, they never really highlight how good America is. And basically, Kamala Harris, in my opinion, had her feelings hurt because she was involved in busing. Now, busing happened because of Brown versus Board of Education. No more segregated schools, yet there are segregated schools in America today. When we talk about race being the great divider, race isn't the great divider. Race is, people self-segregate when they go to religion, when they go to church. People self-segregate all the time. Is it the role of the federal government to make sure that, everybody is integrated if you don't want to be? I'm not arguing for segregation. I'm just saying you look at the patterns. But everybody should have the same opportunities. Brown versus Board of Education. But just like anything else, particularly the legal system, whether you're white or black, if you don't have any money, you're out of luck. You're really out of luck. That's what it comes down to, right? I would argue that it has less to do with the color of your skin and more to do with how many bills you have in your wallet. So anyway, busing, very controversial. Busing, riots, horrible. Now, that happened in the Midwest and the Northeast. Maybe it happened in California, but Kamala Harris very hurt by this. And because she was bused, because you had integration, because you had blacks and whites actually forced by the federal government to get along, and it was painful, you shouldn't talk about working with segregationists. In fact, it's not even that Joe Biden worked with people that wanted to keep the races segregated. It was that Joe Biden spoke of it nostalgically, like the good old days. Man, if you're a guy like Joe Biden, who helped Barack Obama get elected and then reelected, sometimes you can't do anything right. Here we go on KIDO Talk Radio.
Vice President Biden, do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America then?
No.
Do you agree?
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I opposed.
Well, there was a
oppose...
failure of states to integrate public schools in America. I was part of the second class to integrate Berkeley, California public schools almost 2 decades after Brown v. Board of Education.
Because your city council made that decision. It was a local decision.
So that's where the federal government must step in. That's why we have the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. That's why we need to pass the Equality Act. That's why we need to pass the ERA, because there are moments in history where states fail to preserve the civil rights of all people.
I have supported the ERA from the very beginning when I ran
Vice President Biden, 30 seconds, because I want to bring other people into this.
I supported the ERA from the very beginning. I'm the guy that extended the Voting Rights Act for 25 years.
Poor Joe Biden. Poor Joe Biden. Here you have Joe Biden, who thinks he's going to waltz into the election. Joe Biden, who thinks he's going to win, and because of his association with Barack Obama. Heck, you talk to most civil rights leaders, they love Joe Biden. And unfortunately, it was almost like it was a 2-on-1 fight. Chuck Todd figuratively grabbing Joe Biden, not allowing him to respond, and letting Kamala Harris just smack him around. Now, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, does this really impact us today? Whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Asian, whether you're Latino, regardless of whether you're like me, an American, does this really impact you today? Does this really help us with the Chinese, with the North Koreans, with the Iranians? Does it really help us at all? Or is this just pandering and trying to connect on an emotional level, Harris being the aggrieved, Biden being the out-of-touch, old white guy aggressor? This is Looneyville. This is Looney Tunes, what's going on with the Democratic Party. I mean, my goodness gracious. Now you have Mayor Pete Buttigieg, and you could have a lot of fun with that, but no, we live in the woke times, and Kevin Miller's dependents, i.e. the credit cards, the mortgage, the car payments, need to be taken care of, so we won't be going there. But if you're on the same frequency with me as most of you are, you could have fun with his name on a lot of levels. No, I'm not going to say that. I am not going there. I need this job.
I also believe in free college for low and middle income students for whom cost could be a barrier. I just don't believe it makes sense to ask working class families to subsidize even the children of billionaires. I think the children of the wealthiest Americans can pay at least a little bit of tuition. And while I want tuition costs to go down, I don't think we can buy down every last penny for them.
So Mayor Pete was bragging that he and his husband, no, there's no wife. I guess there's just two husbands. That would be up to you or me to try and figure out. I can't keep score at the line of scrimmage. However, he was talking, I have 6 figures in student loan debt. Well, maybe you need to get a second job there, Mayor Pete. Then you have the congressman from California who came up and said, well, I've got $150,000 in student debt. They were trying to, I guess, out-victim each other. Crazy. So what happened? Health care for everybody. Health care for all the illegals. Free college tuition. I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, and if you go along with this guy, Andrew Yang, a billionaire, millionaire, a tech entrepreneur, he's going to pay you $1,000. I don't know if he's paying the illegals, but he's going to pay you $1,000 just for being alive.
It's difficult to do if you have companies like Amazon, trillion-dollar tech companies, paying literally zero in taxes while they're closing 30% of our stores. Now, we need to put the American people in position to benefit from all these innovations in other parts of the economy. And if we had a value-added tax at even half the European level, it would generate over $800 billion in new revenue.
Sure. And you would need that $1,000 a month to pay for the added value tax.
The worst thing President Trump has done is he's diverted the funds away from cross-border terrorism, cross-border human trafficking, drug trafficking, and gun trafficking, and he's given that money to the for-profit prisons. I would not be spending money in for-profit prisons to lock up children and asylum seekers.
More coming up next. Your reaction, as always, 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Coming up, the wackiest of the lefties, a food fight, and then a torch night. But first, another story that's got a lot of interest. We first brought you this yesterday. Idaho prosecutors are delaying the sentencing in the hemp truck driver's case. Ada County prosecutors say they hope to find an appropriate resolution. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean that all the people that signed these petitions and urged the Ada County prosecutors not to prosecute the hempsters, that means the prosecutors are listening? Let's figure out the story. Idaho prosecutors say they want to find an appropriate resolution for two men who pled guilty to felony drug trafficking after they were arrested for hauling industrial hemp through the state. Now, here's something. You broke the law. You pled guilty. Now, what's going on behind the scenes, according to my legal experience, which means watching the shows, is the defense attorney said, look, we're not going to make this any more of a circus than it already is. You've got 2,000, 1,000, I don't know how many people have signed a petition saying, this is an embarrassment. I don't know if I could do that again without coughing. This is an embarrassment. Well, they broke the law, right? So, Andrew Diararo and Eric Eisenhart, both of Oregon, were scheduled to be sentenced this week, but in a new filing, Ada County prosecutors say they want to find an appropriate resolution for the case. Now it looks like they'll be sentenced in September. Look, the prosecutors want this to go away. I knew it was that that started the cough. The prosecutors want this case to go away, especially since the federal farm bill legalizes the hemp, right? And then you had a couple of state legislators who love the hemp, went down there and protested and all this. Dorothy Moon, great conservative. I hope that they use discretion to where these men aren't going to be used as poster boys for not driving industrial hemp across the state. They do call this the hang 'em high state, right? So what should these guys get? You break the law, you go to jail. They pled not guilty. You've got another guy who's accused of hauling 3 tons of hemp. He pled not guilty and faces a minimum of 5 years in the pen if convicted. I don't know if they can get time served. And you're going to have to see people saying, this makes no sense. Look, you get involved in 2 things. You get involved in the legal system. You get involved in the medical system. Neither one of them makes sense. You go to see the doctors and they say, well, it's probably that you're a fatty. Well, no, I'm a fatty. Well, it's probable that this could happen to you. Yeah, you're right. Well, what if I do this? Well, it's probable that it might be a little better. A lot of probables. You go into the court case. Well, if I do this, what will happen? Well, the judge could make you stand on your head. Well, the judge could make you do this. Well, the judge could make you do that. Right? I don't know. But the prosecutors, they want to get out of this. You know why? Because they're great at their job. Do you know why? Because they've got better things to do, like taking care of Timmy Kenner whenever he's found mentally stable enough to stand trial for the murders that he committed, allegedly, then deal with this story. They want it to go away. Bravo to the prosecutors. although the law is the law. We'll talk about it next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. There we have it, the most Google person in America today, Marianne Williamson, searched on Google for night 2 of the big presidential debate. 580-5436, 580-KIDO, talking about the Hempsters. You break the law. 5 years in prison. They pled guilty. Do the prosecutors plead them out to 6 months' time served? Community service? Eric in Kuna, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Kevin in Boise. Hey, the hemp truck drivers, you can't make fun of some citizens that put a petition together to get those CDL truck drivers out of jail. I mean, they drove through Idaho and got in jail. And like a couple months before hemp was legalized, completely legalized across the country for industrial and farming use.
Not in Idaho.
Okay, and so they drive through Idaho and get thrown in jail. I was a truck driver for a couple of years, and I still have a CDL.
You didn't drive the hemp, though, did you?
No, I've never drove on pot.
Exactly. You obey the law.
Got it completely out of my system for a month and never mixed it. And you can't because you get random drug tested. Okay, I've smoked pot on and off my whole life with jobs that, I've put it down for months, even over a year before. With jobs, okay? Kevin, you're being a little obsessive compulsive on the pot and people. I mean, you got to respect people's freedoms. You don't skydive, do you? You don't want to go jump out of an airplane, but you're not going to tell somebody, hey, you can't do that because I don't agree with it, right? I mean, if you believe in conservative values, Kevin, you really should reflect them in everything.
I do reflect conservative values. The law.
The truck drivers in jail.
Are you pulling a Kamala Harris? You're just over talking me, Eric.
Of the Idaho politicians. Throw those poor guys in jail for hemp. Hemp don't get you high.
Is it okay to talk now? Well, we can agree to disagree. And Eric disclosing that he, has smoked marijuana in the past. Might be time to take a hit today to chill out. Okay, now that was just for fun. Eric, we appreciate your opinion. Sorry that you didn't want to engage in a conversation, but that choice is yours, sir. We respect that. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Robin. And I'm Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Now, look. If, Eric, we love you. Sorry about that, but we'll move on. Being excessive about the hemp situation, that's one of the top stories of the day. Along with this one, Idaho troopers say Texas man had almost 40 pounds of marijuana in a rented pickup truck. He couldn't even get his own pickup truck. He rented a pickup and hauling marijuana through the Gem State. And let me just say this. And I've been in contact with our friend Radical Russ, the pro-marijuana guy. We're going to get him back on because there's a Cold War going on now that will be a hot war very soon. And we're talking about marijuana. You just heard what Eric said. We should get with the times. Well, I was talking to a young person the other day, and for some reason the young people kind of, I guess and I'm sure this is this way for you, they view us as caricatures of a past that no longer exists. No, we are the keepers of the flame of liberty, of freedom, of conservatism. Not of anything goes. Not of anything goes. And I'd rather be on the wrong side of history. I had 3 20-somethings in here the other day. Oh, you're going to be on the wrong side of history. Oh, my goodness. To be lectured to by someone in their mid-20s when I'm double your age. If nothing else, the life experience should give us something, right? Well, I would rather be on the side of law enforcement and state government. And just like yesterday I said, actually I think it was Jeff the Suit, praising Channel 7 and their charitable work. St. Jude's, the Dream Home, 7 Cares, and all the other work that their staff, they do behind the scenes. Nobody ever says thank you, Channel 7. Maybe they do. You know, maybe we should have a Channel 7 day. Oh, you can't do that because the other TV stations will be mad. They don't do as much as Channel 7. And just like law enforcement, if for nothing else, we accomplish one thing, is to thank the people of law enforcement, of the truck driving companies, of the first responder companies, of the government, whether it's Senator Rice, Senator Groh, Senator Winder, other conservatives, Governor Little. Now, I'm not speaking for them, but Governor Little, I will. I'm not the spokesperson, but I will right now, that say this is not a good thing for Idaho. Because the easiest thing for me to do would be to go, hey, I don't care. I drink a lot, and I'm going to smoke weed, or I don't smoke weed, but you can do what you want. That is a pandering argument, and that may work for some people. I'd rather be on the side of principle, faith, family, and freedom. Wouldn't you?